Do you want to get kills every time you gank? Ganking is crucial to being a great jungler, but you are losing so much LP because when you gank, well, it's just trash. So how do you actually gank properly? As I'm doing my blue buff this game, can you see this wave? Because I am parallel with this wave, I know that when I finish my blue buff, this wave will be in mid lane. Therefore, the enemy Sylas will also be in mid lane. The first step to ganking like a god is knowing if the enemy champion will be there or not. The Sylas is not going to leave mid when there is a wave right in front of him. Otherwise, he might lose key golden experience in the early game and fall behind quickly. So as I finish blue buff, I know Sylas will be mid, but I need to make sure I can kill him. I don't just want to show on the minimap and potentially lose this bot crab without getting a kill. So I use my F key attached to my mid laner and see the Sylas is about half HP. Being a Shaco with Halo Blades and Ignite, I know I have enough damage to kill this Sylas before he is out of range, which is what we do. You could replace Shaco with any champion and still get this kill. But I have a question for you. Why don't I gank bot lane after blue buff? I would be here on time with the wave, so the enemy champions would be here. But the issue is that I don't know if we can kill the enemy bot lane before the enemy jungler gets here. In this game, I have no idea about Lee Sin, and there is nothing stopping Lee Sin from clearing towards bot, skipping his Krugs maybe, and waiting for me to gank. You might think, oh, he's playing Shaco, he's just going to gank whichever lane is pushed up, so this could end very badly. But if I gank mid, it's almost impossible for Lee Sin to protect the Sylas before he dies. The enemy bot lane, on the other hand, the Samira is close to full HP, has cleanse, flash, a support right next to her, and a jungler potentially waiting in fog. I'm almost out of breath. But what if I was doing my blue buff and saw Lee Sin ganking top? Can I now gank bot lane? Of course. So you have to take into account where the enemy jungler could be before you gank. But there's also another critical bit of information to consider: enemy vision. Because the enemy bot lane is pushed further up, it means their vision will push further up too. Therefore, this pixel brush is likely warded. So after my blue buff, would I run through river? I would run into the enemy bot side jungle and gank the enemy bot lane from their tri-brush. This also maximizes my chance of killing the enemy champions because they have to run through me and my damage to get to safety. If I was to gank through the river and show on vision, I would be chasing them and likely dealing no damage. Now, as Canyon does raptors in this game, there is a wave close to entering the lanes, which means the enemy champions are going to be in lane. So what would you do? Farm your Krugs? Because Canyon knows Aatrox is pushing the top wave further away from his safety, Canyon finishes Raptors and decides to gank top lane. In addition, Aatrox has no flash, so this is a very easy kill. Gank on waves. After Nemesis dies to T1 Zeus, Zeus decides to shove the next wave. Interesting decision, but by the time he kills the last minion, if I draw a line from the furthest red minion to just outside the tower range, and then draw a line from the furthest blue minion of the next wave to the same position, which minion gets there first? They probably get there at the same time. This would be terrible for Zeus because Nemesis can freeze the lane in that position, and he will get jungle ganked for the rest of the game. Canyon, the friendly Lee Sin, knows this, which is why after his Krugs, he ganks Zeus trying to crash the wave, and what you know, they kill the Jax. Gank on waves. As Canyon moves towards the river, would you gank the Akali here? Canyon doesn't. Even though there is a wave in the lane and the enemy Akali is very low HP, she has something that stops Canyon from being able to damage her. This is flash. If Canyon is ganking the Akali from her raptors, let's say, it's a great gank. Even if she flashes, he can just flash after her. But when he runs out of this mid brush, he will be showing on vision, so the Akali will immediately move away from Canyon. He would then have to ward hop and flash just to get in Q range, and what if he misses? Also, the enemy jungler could be active in the bot river, ready to counter gank. So if Canyon overextends with no cooldowns, FF. The lesson here, flashes make it more difficult to gank and kill, because the enemy champions are technically closer to their safety. It's like an optical illusion. So yes, Akali is kind of far away from her tower, but not really when you consider she has flash, and can also just run into her bot jungle. Now let's watch how you gank. And remember, no one is safe. And if you do want to climb tiers and finally feel in control of your games,
that's the fucking Eagz coaching gap right there.
Then book your first coaching session with me via the links down below. As he starts red buff, Agurin looks top lane and the enemy Swain is basically 1 HP. Even Kadim could kill this guy, so if we can kill him, we need to make sure he's actually going to be there. So can you see a wave parallel to Agurin right now? Yes. So what would you do? Farm Krugs? Coaching links are down below. So if Agurin ran top after red buff, the friendly Aurora would be clearing the next minion wave as he runs towards the enemy tri-brush, and as it crashes, he would be ready to dive the Swain. This is exactly what Agurin doesn't do, and this is a massive missed opportunity. What makes it worse is that the enemy Viego is diving his bot lane. So in terms of trading the map, he gets a Scuttle Crab that's it. But even if Viego is pathing top here, not only do Agurin and Aurora hard win the 2v2 when Swain is literally 1 HP, he can use this top lane advantage to win jungle and pile the pressure on Viego's Gromp or Blue, whichever he hasn't cleared. Also, can you imagine if Viego did his red buff quadrant and then immediately ganked and killed Aurora? They have the exit game button for a reason. In this diamond game, the Elise sees the enemy Zac ganking top lane. So what would you do? Take his bot camps? Not bad, so I won't flame. Taking the enemy Zac's camps here is actually good if you can't kill the enemy bot lane first. This is potentially 600 gold, and after killing the enemy AD carry, they will miss minion waves on top of that. So in this game, the enemy bot lane is pushed further up in the lane. So the further away they are from their tower, the more time you have to deal damage. So this 3v2 should be deadly. Now if the Elise ganks before doing blue buff, the next minion wave is not parallel with her. This means she would have to wait a few seconds for the wave to get into lane before ganking, but she actually has to gank right now. Do you know why? This next wave will give the Jinx and Thresh level 3 after a few melee minions, and this changes everything. We go from fighting with 7 basic cooldowns against 4 to fighting with 7 cooldowns against 6, and the enemy bot lane has the much bigger minion wave. This is where you can get 2v3'd and why Elise has to be in position to gank right at the start of the next wave before they hit level 3. Thankfully, the Thresh decides he's had enough and loses all his HP, but can you see how close this still is? This should be a clear win for blue team, not a close shave. In this Emerald game, the Viego starts grubs. Now look at the math for me. Viego decides to gank top lane. If you would do the same, then there are over 1,000 coaching sessions on my Patreon, link down below. Before Viego even hits grubs, we have no information on top lane. The HP of the champions, where the lane is pushing, nothing. So when I let this play and show you this, how many of you would gank this lane knowing the Aatrox most likely warded the pixel brush and it's full HP? Please look at the lanes before ganking them. In this diamond game, the Lilia sees the enemy jungler topside, so we know we can 2v1 mid or 3v2 bot. But we have to look at the lanes first, which is what Lilia doesn't do. She hits crab without checking the HP and wave states of mid and bot, and misses time on running straight bot to kill the 100 HP Jhin. In this diamond game, Viego sees the enemy Volibear top and thinks about 3v2ing the enemy bot lane. This is a great idea, but when you see the HP of the friendly Samira and then the HP of the enemy bot lane, in terms of total HP, the enemy bot lane still might have more than Viego, Samira, and Rakan combined. So if I say this, never gank a lane that is really far behind in terms of HP, it will treat you well. In this Platinum game, the Talon is going to finish crab and gank the Pantheon. Now the Talon looks at the lane. That's a good start. We can see the Pantheon is pushed up, so there's a lot of space. That's also good. But one more important detail you have to consider before ganking a lane is how much damage your teammate is going to contribute to that fight. This is a Kayle top. I can't think of a weaker early game top laner. So can the weak early game Kayle and Talon kill a full HP Pantheon who can also just run off instead of fight? No. The Pantheon would literally have to be 1 HP for this to be good, and you can see when Kayle runs up, she gets chunked to half HP and the Pantheon is still close to full HP. Thankfully, because the Pantheon doesn't want to run off, he keeps auto-attacking the Talon, which is so lucky. If he just walked away, he lives, basically on full HP, and Talon loses his respawning bot side. This would be devastating for the early game. Learn something? Don't be shit, bye.